Which way of reading is the best? Is it print, e-reader, or audiobook? This is the wrong question, and I'd like to show you why. We've really lost the thread when it comes to the debate on which is the best way to read. It often focuses too heavily on the medium and not enough on us, the human beings who come from different experiences, different abilities, and different circumstances. So rather than asking ourselves about which is the best way to read, perhaps we should be asking ourselves, which is the right tool for our situation? That is the question we will dive into today. I hope by the end of the video, you feel better about your method of reading and perhaps learn a little bit more about the reasons to use each technology. You may be missing out on the best way to enjoy so many wonderful stories from fantastic authors. And with growing access from libraries, we have access to audio, ebooks, and print books. I would also like to hear about your experience, so tell us a little bit about it in the comments. We've been thinking about technology all wrong. Recent conversations have been about how humans need or will need to adapt to new technologies. Instead, we should be thinking about how technologies can support us. And this includes our reading. We actually should be asking, what is the purpose for reading in a given moment? That is, are you reading to be entertained? Are you reading to develop insight? How may we save our notes if we need it? What level of concentration do we need in the moment? And perhaps what environment will we be reading in? For example, what is the light level of the room and how might that dictate the best technology? All of these essential questions help us determine our own reading motivations, and in turn, they can guide us to a medium best suited for our circumstances. I think a couple of books that I'm reading right now may demonstrate how each medium can be used because each of these books has its own peculiarities that highlight key reasons why we should turn to these technologies. The books are The Melancholy of Resistance by Laszlo Krasznahorkai, Skin and Bones by Renee Watson, There Is No Anti-Memetics Division by Quantum, We Have Always Been Here by Lena Gwynn. We will take a look at each of these books to determine how they may benefit from one of these technologies. Before we jump in, please like and subscribe to support this channel. Your support ensures that more people like you hear about this content. Let's begin with the most popular medium, which is the audiobook. When we see topics in the news like reading decline, I wonder if we shouldn't also factor in the impact of this particular technology. This is not to say that audiobooks detract from overall readership. In fact, the volume of listeners may suggest the exact opposite. The attraction of additional readers. Here's how popular audiobooks have become. The evidence seems to say that long form stories themselves are still incredibly popular. In particular, audiobooks are stories that often extend 3 times and more beyond the time length of a movie. If we figure that a movie is about 2 hours to an hour and a half, and audiobooks are about 6 hours. As we know, audiobooks can be way longer than just 6 hours. Personally, I love audiobooks. As to the popularity of audiobooks, Edison Research conducted a poll on audiobook use in 2025, and they found the following. 38% of American adults have listened to at least one audiobook this past year. At least half of all American adults have listened to an audiobook. And the 2024 revenue for audiobooks reached $2.2 billion, which is an increase of 13% over the previous year. Fiction was the top category, representing 64% of audiobook sales. Now, I listen to audiobooks when I'm completing other tasks like cleaning or other household chores, or even sometimes traveling long distances. I'll listen to audiobooks. I also listen sometimes before I sleep rather than watching television. Do these sound familiar to you? You may have also seen a big controversy online. Do audiobooks count as reading? But again, this question implies the existence of an unnecessary ranking system of reading. It suggests that some methods of reading are more valid than others, rather than considering an individual's own environment and their reasons for picking up a text. Reading and listening certainly do have some different cognitive requirements, which bears monitoring. But difference is not the same as better or lesser than. Most news outlets cite the same source on audiobooks. By the way, these full citations are available in the description. The first source that I'm going to discuss comes from 2016. Rogalski and others from that 2016 study tested three groups' reading comprehension both immediately after reading and after 2 weeks. The groups used either audiobook only, e-text only, or a combination of both. The results seemed to show little statistical difference in reading comprehension between mediums. This means that given similar conditions for concentration and focus, readers can recall basic information from a text at statistically similar levels. However, an earlier 2010 study by Willingham and others appears to contradict the 2016 study. It found that its audio group fared significantly worse than textual readers on comprehension and use of a text. Willingham's time interview may give us a clue about the differences in the two findings. He notes that the structural hurdles, like the inability to take notes, highlight, underline, and track back in an audiobook, were factors in his results. He explains that audiobook listeners may be more prone to multitasking and other habits that distract from the singular task of reading. Aha! Distracted reading and audiobook listening are not necessarily the same thing. This may explain why Rogalski and Willingham have differences in their study. That factor of distracted reading, that is, multitasking while listening or reading, and Willingham's reference to structural advantages of text may indicate his emphasis on study and deep learning as reading purposes. Quick note, structural advantages refers to things like the ability to take notes, regress and advance on the page, and other physical and spatial interactions with an actual text. Using the revised Bloom's taxonomy, which charts the levels of critical thinking, it shows Willingham is very concerned here. Rogalski's later study specifically focuses on remembering and understanding, not the additional factor of distracted reading. Critics have also noted that text, the physical text, is essential for young people's reading development, which Rogalski's use of adult participants did not test. Whew. Pardon all of that technical stuff, but I wanted to show you the real research behind the audiobook debate. What we need to understand from all of this debate is that, one, audiobook listening has some critical similarities to text or physical reading, and They expand participation with books. Number two, audiobooks, while encouraging habits of distraction or multitasking, enable flexibility in the consumption of human stories. Yes, audiobooks may have some disadvantages, but their advantages make them great for the following. One, enjoying stories at a similar length and immersion as novels. Two, listening hands free and multitasking, like driving, cooking, or other daily tasks and activities. If you want to go out and shoot threes while listening to an audiobook, well, I guess you can do that. Number three, hearing performances that may illuminate a story or character in a way you hadn't considered. That's a benefit. I recently read two books that highlight this last point. I can't play these for you because obviously copyright, but I will describe them for you as best as I can. Lena Gwynn's We Have Always Been There has a space sequence wherein a character is running out of breathable air. The vocal performance stretches the timing of the scene by adding pauses, gasps, and effects that are not perceivable in a physical text. Simultaneously, the vocal pitch and tone heighten the event's tension. I found myself engaged with this part of the book in a way that I wasn't while reading the physical book. The other book is a recent release called There Is No Anti-Memetics Division, and it's by an author named Quantum. The physical text has lots of visual elements like black line redaction and iconography. These are missed in an auditory medium like an audiobook. However, the creators represented the book's visual artifacts with audible distortions and effects. While the physical book is unsettling, the audio adds a dimension of horror that I didn't process while reading. Of course, this was a smart way for the author to get me to buy both the physical and audiobooks. So, caveat emptor, I guess. I would also note that the imagination does have an important place in figuring our understanding of a text. So, an audiobook could replace that imagination. That is perhaps just one downside. Audiobooks are not going away, and I suppose neither is the debate. So it helps to be informed and it helps to know which sorts of technologies will work best for you. Audiobooks can be a great tool for experiencing stories, and they can expand access beyond the visual medium. Or they may provide us with an experience that heightens the excitement of our favorite books. Rather than asking whether or not audiobooks count as reading, perhaps our question should be, how would you like to experience your story? Let's move over to another very popular medium for reading, e-readers. Devices like Kindle and Kobo have their share of controversy, but the debate on e-readers, it's much more subdued than arguments over audiobooks. Or maybe that's just my opinion. The major controversy over ebooks is a big one, however, and it involves topics like ownership, censorship, and information access. When you spend money on an ebook, you most often buy a license to read the book, but not to own the book. The book is under company and publisher control still. This situation was made apparent when, in July 2009, readers received a rude awakening after Amazon pulled copies of 1984 from their Kindle library, and customers who previously believed they owned their copies had the book deleted from their personal libraries. Or, more recently, in early 2025, Amazon canceled the ability of its users to download their own ebooks. Both instances have called attention to companies' power to control access to information via ebook format at any time, which includes a text like the anti-authoritarian novel 1984. However, the advantages of ebooks and e-readers are numerous. And that's why we keep on going back to them. I have a Kobo, which I love. I use it daily. I still prefer physical books, but e-readers have areas where they shine. Number one, I can carry a whole library of books in a single device that can fit in a small bag. Two, I can easily read in a low light or darkened room. Three, the contrast between text and the background on an e reader is typically high and it can be adjusted. For me, it helps reduce eye fatigue. Four, e-readers also permit some manipulation of the text size and also the spacing. Five, this e-reader allows me to highlight passages, draw on the text and in the margins, and it saves all the passages I've highlighted and it saves all my notes that I can put on a computer. Sixth, and finally, the weight of the Kobo is balanced, which makes it much easier to hold than a book. Obviously, these are a lot of benefits. And again, this is why we keep on coming back to e-readers. Now, a quick demonstration of an e-reader's benefits. So, I recently finished Laszlo Krasznahorkai's The Melancholy of Resistance. Let's take a look at the book itself, as well as its presentation in the text. The book is not particularly cumbersome, but see how the author wrote his sentences and paragraphs. It all runs together. Krasznahorkai presents the novel like this on purpose because he is attempting to produce an effect or experience within the narration. Anxiety and confusion play heavily into the story, so the novel's layout plays also heavily into this idea. I'm glad that I had the book, and I read about a fourth of it from the actual physical text. However, as you can see, I wear glasses, and even with this miracle of modern medicine, I couldn't read for more than a couple of minutes without the text going blurry or without losing my place, again, because of eye fatigue. This, on the other hand, is the text on the e reader. I lost the immersive effect of the original book, which changed the experience, but I was able to finish it without any migraines. It was a trade off. However, I feel better off for having experienced the physical text. And libraries make this access to multiple versions of a text a little bit easier. So, support your local library. E readers give us the power of ease of use and some means of flexibility over traditional books. However, the trade off is the loss of formatting and presentation. For example, if a text has visual elements, which many of them do, that presentation is lost. We will take a look at a book with a specialized layout in just a few moments. Keep in mind, we also lose in an ebook some of the spatial and physical accessibilities of a book. While ebooks allow for things like notes, especially if you pay an additional premium, books come with note ability right off the shelf. There may also be something to the community experience of reading a book. I attend a book club and we all read the same text. That way, it's all formatted similarly. We can all point out page numbers and get to the same place. The customizability of an e reading experience loses that community experience. Each technology has a trade off, but I like having books in common with other people. Physical books can keep us connected. The most adaptable and accessible technology for many people is still the old fashioned book. I prefer mine in hardcover because of the durability and the firmness of the text, but others may love paperbacks, and sometimes I hear about the floppiness that they love. What advantages do physical books have? One, physical books have a low comparative upfront investment. Two, you own each copy you purchase, and as long as you can keep it clean, dry, and out of the sun, you have a readable technology for years or perhaps even decades. Three, when I want to move backwards or forwards through a book, I can do that pretty easily. I can even jump through the text easily. Four, if I want someone to check out a page or I have a conversation about some part of the book, I can say, hey, check out page such and such. And we're right there. Number 5, I can sell or trade a book. I can even buy inexpensive used books. In fact, this is something that I like doing around my city, visiting used bookstores, finding those great finds, finding and hunting for books I haven't experienced yet. Number 6, people may even look smarter with a book. Number 7, notes are so much easier in a book, and you have a physical record of your reading to make it your own. Another benefit of books that I mentioned before, the author can use the layout as another form of expression, which, again, they often do. Check out, for example, ergodic fiction for a sample of the creative possibilities of book design. I recently read Renee Watson's Skin and Bones, which is about a Black woman's life in Portland, Oregon. I'll review this more in detail in a later episode, but I wanted to point out a few things about its page design. Watson wrote it in an epistolary format, but that classification doesn't quite explain her book, and we can only understand that through the format. At times, her book turns from poetry to history and to short story. The wide margins on the page initiate readers into the book's unusual style. It is close to what you might see in a book of poetry rather than a novel. But this is a novel. Some chapters are a couple of lines, some are several pages, and some break into verse. Some chapters are narrative, while others are simply descriptions of scenic snapshot. However, without this page design, the writing does not communicate the division between ideas, the individuation of thoughts and expressions, or the separation between hours, days, and weeks that's so important to the novel. We don't get the epistolary effect, nor does the book signal the author's poetic license to shape the book as she has. The narrative design cannot be communicated on an e reader with the same effect. This element of page, space, and placement is lost. Even though this is a special formatting, think about how much a story is communicated by a layout, its placement, and the white space on the text. We may not pay that much attention, but page design communicates all sorts of essential elements of a story. And without them, or if they're minimized, we are reading a different book. This was apparent during a conversation about the melancholy of resistance. While parts of the book were more readable, I'd actually missed whole ideas that others in the group mentioned. Because the e reader had standardized my view of the page, from the spacing to the font, I lost some things. Like I said, each technology has its advantages and its trade offs. Rather than denigrating any one technology, we can keep in mind that each technology is useful. Maybe not in the same ways, but each of the three mediums offers us something the others don't. It allows us to choose the best way to suit us, to read and make human connections that facilitate the purposes we design and desire out of the stories we love. Thank you for listening and always being an excellent audience. Please feel free to comment in the comments below. I'm Ben from Tilting at Tomes. If you have a chance, again, please like and subscribe to support this channel. Thank you very much.